Last time I was at Drexel was quite a while ago. It was during the 2000 Republican Convention in Philadelphia. A wonderful event. And there was a fundraiser for Trent Lott, who at the time was head of the Appropriations Committee in the Senate, big friend of the weapons industry. And the fundraiser was in a room many times the size of this. It was sort of like a field house, could be 10 times or more. And I wanted to sneak in and just see what these things are like. So, I talked to a journalist friend of mine. I said, how do you get in one of these exclusive events? He said, buy a really good cigar and give it to the guy at the door, and he'll let you in. So I was at the train station. I said, what's a good cigar? I don't smoke cigars. They gave me a cigar. I went there. They didn't ask for the cigar. They just said, go ahead. Because Lott had already spoken, and they needed to keep it looking full and so forth. But anyway, the theme of the event was called the Lott Hop, sort of like a 50s sock hop. It was a dance theme. And then they were giving out commemorative CDs with a picture of Trent Lott on the front, dancing. And with music from the original groups from the 50s. And then they had the Four Tops R&B group, actually singing. They had huge piles of barbecue, the largest amount of roasted flesh I'd ever seen in one room in my life. And all this was brought to you by various corporations, including Lockheed Martin. And then this is just sort of one of the ways, in addition to campaign contributions and planting jobs in people's districts, and serving on government committees that tell us what we need for our defense. This is one of the little kind of party favors that the companies give to members of Congress to get them to do what they need. And that's a particularly important issue now, because we might, after many, many years, actually see some reductions in the Pentagon budget. And companies like Lockheed Martin are going to fight that tooth and nail, and they're going to work with members who they've helped over the years, the way they helped Trent Lott way back then. But I'm not going to talk so much about the arms lobby today, although we can certainly do that later. I want to talk about sort of where we stand on some of the important issues we've been working on for all these years. Nuclear disarmament, the military budget, the global arms trade. This is the International Day of Peace, but you don't have to be a research scientist to understand that we don't have peace anymore. Today's Washington Post front page had an article about how the United States is going to create some new drone bases in the Middle East and Africa to be able to do targeted assassinations of people suspected of being terrorists. So this is just another extension of the large hundreds of military bases we have around the world, the sort of militarization of our foreign policy. And I do think we're making progress, but I think we have to understand where we're starting from. We live in a country that's at war in at least 3 places, depending how you define war. We're in a country that's spending more on its military than at any time since World War II, more than during Vietnam, more than during the Reagan buildup, more even than the Korean War. Our military budget has gone up for the last 13 years running, something that has never happened before. Our country is the world's leading arms merchant. We've got thousands of nuclear weapons. And despite recent treaties, we still have massive nuclear overkill. So we have challenges, to put it mildly. But I think it's important to reflect on what we have accomplished. And if you recall, when Barack Obama took office, he gave a speech in Prague, Czech Republic, where he talked about working towards the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons. And he committed his administration to work towards that goal. He held a meeting of the Security Council of the UN where he got world leaders to commit to the goal of a world without nuclear weapons. He held a meeting in Washington of leaders from all over the world to talk about how to secure bomb-making materials so they didn't get into the hands of terrorists or repressive regimes. Most importantly, he helped push through the New START, a nuclear weapons reduction treaty with Russia, through a very hostile U.S. Senate. A lot of us have worked on that, and we needed 8 Republican votes in the Senate to get the 2/3 number you need to pass a treaty. We got 13 Republicans, which in a climate in which basically the Republican Party wouldn't even agree with President Obama about what time of day it is, was quite an accomplishment. With all the issues he's got on his plate, he has still committed himself, for example, to work towards a Senate ratification of the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. Now, we've got to think about the politics of our country, whether that's a short-term or longer-term goal, but he's put energy into it, even in the midst of all the other problems that the country has now. And I think one thing to think about with President Obama is his commitment to get rid of nuclear weapons doesn't come out of nowhere. When he was a student at Columbia University, it was the height of the nuclear disarmament movement in the 80s. With 1 million people marching in Central Park, the nuclear freeze movement getting off the ground. And so he wrote about these matters for the campus newspaper. He wrote papers about it. He was exposed to the issue at a time when there was a strong disarmament movement. And then 25 years later, he was elected President of the United States, and he brought that commitment with him into the office of the presidency. So we were talking earlier about how you'll do an event sometime, it'll be smaller than you hope, but that the real point is, who's there? What are people going to do with the information? Who's going to be inspired to take action? And so here's an example of somebody who was inspired to grab onto this issue, who was in a position to do something about it in a very big way. So I think, the question now is how to build on some of these gains, like the New START.